Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Beyond Motherhood. Today, we are going to be speaking all about nutrition in motherhood and how we as mums can go from feeling totally depleted to feeling a little more energized when it comes to how we can use nutrition to help us do that. And I am very lucky to have another guest speaker on this week, Jenna Poole, who is a functional nutritionist. So she's the expert. I don't know much about this topic, so got to bring in all the experts to talk about this. But I think it's a really important topic, not only for us mums to consider what we're fueling our body with, but also for our children as well, because obviously they are going to be learning off our eating habits and what we're introducing into our diets. And it's obviously they look to us how we model things. So thanks, Jenna, for coming on today. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I feel so honored.
So I guess, I've said that you're a functional nutritionist, but I would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself, who you are, and why you're so passionate about this work.
Yeah, amazing. I love this question because I think the typical answer is, like I'm a mom, I'm a nutritionist, I'm a wife, I've got 3 chickens. But really like who I am, I'm like wild, primal, I'm a barefoot runner. I love anything to do with music and just like dancing in the kitchen with the kids and just going nuts. I'm a science nerd who loves like root cause practices. Let's get to the root cause of why you're feeling how you're feeling, and then educating on nutrition and your body in a really fun way so that you're going to remember it and can make sustainable changes. I'm also a fist pumper. So like I celebrate life. If you have a win, we are fist pumping in this office. It is just, I don't feel we celebrate the little things enough. And so I'm a massive celebrator of life. I'm deeply empathetic and intuitive. And I just love relationship and connecting with people.
I love that answer.
Yeah, I just don't want to go with the like normal what I am. Like, who are you, you know?
That's right. We are so much more than our labels.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you mentioned the word sustainable, because I think when it comes to what we're eating and fueling our bodies with, uh, it needs to be sustainable, because otherwise we're not going to do it. And that
Totally.
is such a big challenge, especially for mums when we're busy and we have so many demands placed on us and so many responsibilities. And it can be so easy just to go for those quick things that aren't necessarily going to be serving us and our bodies.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to, as we go on, you sharing some of those sustainable pieces with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose I like the reason why I'm so passionate and I want it to be sustainable is because like, can you think of anything else that you do multiple times a day that you kind of have to do that keeps you alive? Like your nutrition is such a pivotal foundational part of your daily life. And why make it hard?
Mm, yeah.
We have enough hard things in our life. And, a little bit about my background, I have spent a large portion of my life in mental and physical pain. Like I experienced an eating disorder for over 16 years. I had fibromyalgia, bloating, painful periods, gut issues, anxiety, depression, brain fog, like you name it. I've been in that pain and I've lived in that pain and that worry about my body. And what that really led to is being disconnected from a really large portion of myself. Like being disconnected from my body to me means being disconnected from who I am and what I'm here to do and just to experience, right? And so, why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate is because when you can guide moms to have space in their body, they then have space in their brain to then connect and serve their kids and be intuitively and connected to them and know what they need, because kids don't know what they need. And when mums and women have space to connect to themselves, they are powerful women, right? Like when we know who we are and we're in our, like, I call it your zest, that just like that real zesty energy and you're thriving and feeling vital and amazing, you are a connector. You are intuitive. You can serve your community and your loved ones with such presence and heart space. And that is just so powerful for long-term change for our society.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And thanks for sharing some of your story as well. I know for me, I've had, and it's improved now, and I've worked with someone to improve it, but I had some pretty significant gut health issues a few years back, and it still sometimes comes up, and nutrition was a huge part of shifting that, and nervous system health as well, but nutrition played a huge part in that, in terms of healing my gut. And because we all know the gut brain connection, and how if our guts not functioning well, our brain's not going to be functioning well either. And it's, for me, it was such a shift from, I wouldn't say I ate quote unquote bad, but funnily enough, I was vegan at the time. I'm not anymore, but it started before. Actually, did it start before? I think it actually started before I was vegan, but then it incrementally got worse.
Yeah, right.
So having to actually really change a lot in my diet, and also grapple with some of the reasonings why I was vegan, and having to kind of come to terms with that in a way. And I have been able to make a lot of sustainable changes now. And at first it kind of felt a little bit overwhelming, but I think like anything, it becomes habitual over time once we start to make those changes, and then it doesn't feel so big. But it doesn't have to feel big. It's just, I guess, sometimes our perception of it.
Definitely. And I think it's also your life load, right? Like if you've already got, like, I talk about book stacking, right? If your book stack is already quite high, so you've got like 3 kids, and then you run a business, and then you're renovating, may not be talking about myself. And then and then you've got other stressors on that. You might have relationship stress or financial stress, or you might just be super busy. And then on top of that, you're trying to make changes.
Yeah.
Your life load is huge. And going back to that space concept, if you want to implement or make change in your life, there has to be space.
Mm-hmm.
You have to carve space. If you're trying to shove things into the cracks in between the books that your stack's already full, like, it's going to be so hard. It's going to be so hard. But if you've got space, and that space doesn't have to be huge, okay? It just might mean that you're in a little less pain, or you take one book off the stack, then you've got that room and that guidance and support to make the change, which is super important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess for you, because you don't work just specifically with mums, is that correct?
Correct. I do work a lot with athletes, which
Yeah.
I love. And I work with young athletes in particular, so adolescents, and that is just so fun. You can see my face. I'm just like, because they're so receptive, and they just get in and they do the work, and it's just so empowering to see their changes over the course of a year, and the goals that they have, and it's really fun. But I don't only work with mums. I just work mainly with women. I do have some men in my clinic. I'm a bit of a variety, and I guess the main thing that I'm working with is gut health, and you touched a little bit on nervous system health. But I also work a lot with women who want to get pregnant, are pregnant, and then I'm really passionate about postpartum health as well. And when I say postpartum, I don't mean like 6 to 8 weeks after you have birth. I mean 2 years, like in that space where you are sleep deprived and it is hard to get the nutrients in. And I've had 3 babies in a short amount of time, and I get it. And so being able to like find those sneaky ways to get heaps of nutrients in without a lot of volume can make such powerful change. So yeah, like I guess too, like women, I think working with them, when you can change how a woman feels, it's just innate in us that we want to help and serve. And so then you watch the family change, right? Like you watch the kids change and you watch hubby change and everyone starts to get healthier. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm curious to know with the mums that you do work with, and I know it can be varied depending on where they are, whether it's, you know, in those first 2 years postpartum or, you know, after that. But are there patterns or different things mums are coming, or specific things? What are you sort of seeing mums coming to you for? Is it because they're feeling like depleted? Is it because there's gut health issues, or is it a whole different combination of things?
Yeah, I love it. I think with mums, the two or the key areas are one, feeling really depleted,
Mm.
feeling so depleted. And you've got to really look at like I talk about stickability. So we talked about sustainability. With any change, you got to stick with it.
Mm.
And you've got to carve the space in order to make changes. And I think that's why working with a depleted woman can be in some ways challenging, because when you're feeling so depleted, you don't have motivation. We don't love that word, but you don't have the you've got to have a really strong mental mindset in order to do the things,
Yeah.
even when you don't feel like doing them, right? Like you got to drink your broth. You've got to like take your liver tablets. You've got to feed yourself and your babies, not just like pick off their plates. So I think that's where like the nervous system work's super important, and that holistic concept is really important in my office when we're working with women, because it's not like I talk about barriers to change a lot, right? So I had this beautiful woman in, and she wanted to eat more fish. Okay. And I was like, awesome. Well, why aren't you eating more fish? And she's like, well, I only like one type of fish. And I'm like, okay. And then she says, like we got a fish man here in Albury Wodonga, and he's got like, he goes to the markets daily and he is in a different spot every day. So for her, that's a big challenge, right? It's a barrier because one, you've got to figure out where he is. Two, I only like one type of fish. You know, those hurdles, while they seem small, are massive. Yeah. Same as like drinking lots of water. If you don't have a drink bottle, that's a barrier to change. So we talk about that a lot, because it's not like eating healthy is simple, but the barriers are not.
Yeah.
Does that resonate?
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I notice a huge difference on the days where I don't have my water bottle with me, how much water I drink compared to the days when I do, because I guess it's when it's there. I mean, I know that's just one simple example, but
Yeah.
when it's easily accessible, I suppose, we're more inclined to do it because it feels easier, it feels more achievable.
And I'm curious to know, like, what do you notice when you feel dehydrated?
Just like that dry mouth, I get headachy, like foggy in the head. They're probably the main things I notice.
Yeah. Do you crave anything specifically? Like, do you notice that what you reach for changes?
Um, Not that I've actually ever thought about. I'm gonna have to think about
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the flow-on effect. Like, when you're dehydrated, you get headachy, you get foggy. What happens in how you relate to your kids? Like, do you get a bit shorter? Do you get a bit snappier? Do you like, I notice I reach for the more like carbohydrate rich foods that give you a quick, fast source of energy rather than a longer lasting source of energy. So essentially, when you're in that dehydrated state, or you're in like a protein deficient state, you are stressed. Your body becomes into a fight or flight situation. So you will reach for the things that are going to give you quick, sharp sources of fuel, because it needs something now. Whereas something that's going to be more sustainable for you, we'll use that word again, is like a protein and fat rich meal with lots of like iron and B12 and vitamin A and fat soluble nutrients are going to even you out and allow you to be more patient, have more space, more grounded. I really love talking about being grounded with mamas, because kids are often not. Or like when they're grounded, you're not grounded. Like kind of thing. Yeah. And so like you have to go back to that mindset of like, I know I'm reaching for this. Why? Oh, I haven't had enough water. What's something that I like? What action can I take now that's going to allow me to feel better now and in 2 hours' time? So that's where that mind skill comes into effect. I guess going back to your original question, like the other thing I see with women and mums in clinic is not only being depleted, but going into like finding out we're pregnant, finding out you're pregnant, and all of a sudden we have to make these changes to our diets because we've got another baby in our, like a human that we're growing, and our body is doing the work growing it. And that is a huge life change. Like, can you remember that life change when you found out that
Yeah.
and it gets really overwhelming for women because there's so much advice, and I will admit, like, a lot of it's terrible. A lot of the advice is terrible, but also you might be fighting nausea and morning sickness and fatigue, and you might be going into pregnancy depleted, iron deficiency, B12 deficiency. You've got to make all these, like, it's big, right? Like, it's a big thing. And then often tied into that, women are really, I don't know if scared is the right word, but they know what they don't want. They don't want to put 20 to 50 kilos on during the pregnancy. So they're coming to me saying, like, I've had 1 to 2 babies beforehand, and during those pregnancies I put 25 kilos on, and I'm just like starting the process of losing that weight, and I found out I'm pregnant. And so you've got all of these beautiful nuances with all these women, and the main intention that I have for them is to really like hold space and nurture them and encourage them to do what they can and empower them with information that they can take through their pregnancy, postpartum, then with their babies and on,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to know some more specifics in terms of food and even just snacks that you recommend. So, particularly when we do feel like we're running on fumes, and that can be for a variety of reasons. Like, for example, before we started this episode, I said I've had a really terrible sleep last night. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling quite drained because of that. But how can we, I guess, what foods and things can we do to sort of counteract some of those times where we are feeling a bit of a slump
Mm.
in the afternoons, or even just the whole day if we're sleep deprived? I'd love to
Oh,
know.
this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I just got full body tingles. It's so important. It starts with breakfast, and I'm gonna just throw this in at the start so we can like start here and we don't have
I know what
to.
you're going to say. I know what you're going to say.
What am I gonna say?
Are you going to talk about oats?
No, 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 no. We can talk
We'll
about
get
it.
back to oats.
No, women in our phase of life of motherhood with young babies who are either pregnant, wanting to get pregnant, breastfeeding, I don't recommend fasting.
Okay.
Like, this is a really common question. Like, often we don't realize how stressed we are as like, we are go-getters, right? As mamas, we're like go-getters. We're organizing everyone. We are stressed, like, let's be honest. And fasting is a source of stress. And what often I hear is, I'm not hungry in the morning. And I'm not hungry in the morning either, but I eat it because, and it might not be much, but it's grounding. Yeah. If you don't start your day with protein and fat, and you do start your day with a bowl full of sugar, whether that be like, I mean, I haven't eaten cereal in a long time. I did a few months ago look at a packet of cereal options just because I was curious. I was like, let's see what we're popping in cereal these days. And it's just sugar. It's sugar, colors, numbers. Like, your body has no idea what to do with that. So then they just like bounce around in the body, causing dysregulation, blood sugar issues, and you're on a roller coaster all day. Yeah. So, talking about when you're sleep deprived or you're stressed or you're feeling just out of sorts, I want you to picture a roller coaster, and you hop on the cart, and what fuels the roller coaster is carbohydrates. Yeah. So we start our like day with oats or cereal or toast. And that is just in the body that converts to pure glycogen, which is sugar, which we need. You know, we need glycogen, but often we're eating too much of it. So when you consume that carbohydrate rich breakfast, what happens is that the rocket fuel on the roller coaster goes up. It goes whoosh, up the roller coaster. And then because there's no substance in there, it's a really quick, fast burning fuel source. The roller coaster loses fuel. So the cart goes down. Yeah. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
And then you get like to 10 a.m. and you're like, man, I'm feeling fatigued. I'm a bit like peckish. I need a snack. So you go for a coffee, and there's always a coffee and a muffin deal. So we've got to get a muffin or a croissant or whatever, which is again packed with sugar, and that caffeine's going to shoot your cortisol up. So up the roller coaster we go again. And then again, doesn't last very long. So we start to go back down the roller coaster, and we're like, man, I'm hungry. It's lunchtime. I'm going to have a salad sandwich or some leftover pasta or whatever. Back up the roller coaster. And by 3 p.m., you have been up and down this roller coaster all day. You're like, just give me the chocolate, the sugar, the quick fix, right? Because you are achy, you are brain foggy, you are fatigued, you're a bit snappy and short. Is this resonating?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, you had really good intentions to go to the gym after, but you just want to Netflix and chill because you're so done, right? But I want you to take that concept and then think about what it would feel like if you were on an actual roller coaster all day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want you to think about how drained and spent you are, and then think about your kids. And if they're on a roller coaster all day, and you know, tell me, I heard the other day that kids can't regulate their emotions on their own until they're 12. Could be wrong. But they need us as parents to co-regulate. So if the whole family is on a roller coaster all day and we are spent, we can imagine the emotional explosions at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Does this resonate?
Or, you know, the witching hour when you're trying to get
The witching hour. Totally. And like, I'm not saying that if the witching hour is just eliminated, but I would say that if I'm regulated, because I'm not spent, because I don't consume sugar in the morning or throughout the day, that leads me to that roller coaster, then I am more able to drop to my knees, give my child a cuddle, ask them what they need. I'm not perfect. Definitely not perfect over here, but it's easier to help them regulate when you feel good.
Yeah.
Right? When you've got that space. So what I recommend when you all day, like regardless of whether you're sleep deprived, you're stressed, you're short on time, have a protein centric approach to the way you eat. And what does that mean? That means that in every meal you have 1 to 2 palms size and thickness of protein. So that could be 3 to 4 eggs. That could be eggs and a really good quality bacon. Some of my clients have sausages for breakfast or soup, right? Like flip it on its head, or a smoothie, you know, something that's rich in protein. If you really want to eat your oats, add a smoothie, like a protein shake or a smoothie to the side, add some boiled eggs. And then you'll probably be full till lunchtime. If you're not, like having I make like nuts, it's called a CCC slice. The recipe is on my website. I've made it weekly for 4 years. It is delicious. It's so good. And it's just collagen protein powder, cashews, coconut, dates, and cinnamon and salt. Like that's it. It takes 5 minutes to make. I'm not kidding. You shove it in a sliced tin, chop it up into squares, and it's good to go. And that's rich in protein, fats, and carbohydrates. So it's a well-evened bit, and it's going to get you going for another 2 hours before you then can have another like chicken salad or leftovers or whatever. And that is going to prevent the 3 p.m. dip.
Yeah. And I 100% can tell the days around that sort of mid-afternoon, the days that I either A, haven't eaten enough for the day, or B, haven't eaten the foods that are supporting me the best they can.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get really like just in sort of flight mode. Like I'm just like, oh, I've got to do this. Like my head's chopped off and I don't know what the hell. Like I just find it hard to concentrate.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just like jittery and like, and I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten for like 4 hours, or oh, I haven't really snacked today, like because I usually similar to you, and I'm really going to look at your slice because I make a slice or roll it into balls or whatever, but I'm always open to new ones. And my eldest doesn't really like it. My youngest really loves it, so I'm keen to try your one and see if he gets into it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I haven't taken the time to make some of those really nutrient dense snacks for the week, so I really do notice the difference. In terms of oats, I am such a big oats person in the mornings for a variety of reasons. It's quick. I like the taste of it. I don't have. I'm gluten free predominantly.
Okay. Yeah.
So I do have wheat free oats. I don't know if there's a difference
Okay.
but I do add things to it. So I will put like either coconut oil in it after or flaxseed oil. I'll put like chia seeds and hemp seeds, berries and whatever. So I'm adding other things to it, but is there a difference in
Yeah.
wheat
Yeah.
and not-wheat ones?
Yeah. So if we look at grain, so oats, often like when you go with your wheat free or your traditional like gluten free oats, they're just certified to be gluten free. So oats are often contaminated with wheat because they might be grown near each other in the same field, or processing methods can mean that they're contaminated with wheat. And if you have an autoimmune disease called celiac, that's going to really not be helpful for you, okay, to have any form of like gluten. So the actual oat in itself is the same. It's kind of just guaranteed to not be contaminated, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. The issue like with grain, and I mean, everybody is different, okay? And I'm not saying like there is one way to eat for everybody. And the pivotal methodology that I work off, I don't know if that's the right word, in my clinic is it is your body, your choice. Always, right? Like I can make a recommendation, but it's your body. You're the one that has to eat it. But also I want to encourage you to know, what does your body love and thrive on? Yeah, because your body might thrive on oats. If I was to eat oats, I'd be tired within the hour, like to the point of fatigue, eyes closing, and I'd be brain foggy, and then I'd get hungry. Like they're just not satisfying to me. But then if we, go back a few hundred years or a couple of thousand years, traditionally when we were hunters and gatherers, which our bodies are still very primal beings, if we were to eat those grains like the oats and the wheat, they would be prepared in a particular manner. So they'd be soaked, sprouted, fermented, like your traditional sourdough breads, or if you think about kefir, which is fermented milk. These things are fermented and soaked and sprouted to be more digestible. So when they're doing that, they're breaking down anti-nutrients. So your phytates and your oxalates, which are in grains, they're like within the husk of the grain. And what they do is it's basically a seed, and they don't it's like the baby, right? They don't want to be eaten because that's their future offspring. So the phytates and oxalates are like the protectors, the chemical protectors of the seed. And so they put off this chemical in your gut and can be quite inflammatory. They also bind to minerals. So think iron, like how many of us are, like I see iron deficiency in my clinic every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Why are we iron deficient? So they bind to iron, magnesium, zinc, all of your minerals. Those minerals are really, really important for things like managing your stress, energy levels, healing, cognitive function. And so whilst oats can be rich in things like fiber and magnesium and B vitamins, the phytates and oxalates bind to those and pull them out. So for me, they're not worth the bang for buck. Yeah, like if you were to put an egg and oats next to each other, an egg is like a multivitamin. Like it's got everything that you need in there. Eggs are like number one gold standard. Eat one a day.
Yeah.
They're amazing for nutrients. So for me, it's just not worth it. It's not as nutrient dense as a different option, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I always forget is to soak them.
Yeah, because who has time? Who has time, right? Like you're doing the dishes and the lunch boxes and also you just want to chill. Like I prioritize relaxation. And I think like what you said about what you put with your oats is another really important notion, because often we're going for, oats nowadays and oats up 500 years ago are really different, like super, super different. The species of the oat and the grain are different, and they're highly processed now. So the nutrient, just because it has nutrients in it doesn't mean it's available to your body, is what I'm saying. And so when you have a bowl of oats, often people will put milk and honey with it or sugar. And so then it just becomes a bowl of sugar. Whereas if you do choose to have them, pop in some collagen protein powder, or if you digest whey, pop some protein powder in there, and some fats like your peanut butter or your coconut oil and seeds, like you were saying, because those things are going to help satiate you for longer. And they're also going to hit you with that good dose of protein in the morning, which is really important.
Yeah, I do put peanut butter in mine too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I thought you might, because what the picture I was getting was like peanut butter in there.
Gotta have the peanut butter. But no, that's definitely given me something to think about. And look, I do eat eggs every day, but I often will have it for lunch instead, because I work from home, so I can cook a lunch meal, and my kids aren't here, so I don't feel rushed in the morning. So
Yeah, and I think, I was thinking about this morning. I have the most beautiful husband, and he cooks our breakfast every morning.
oh.
Like, I am well nourished. Like I feel so blessed. He cooks this big omelet for all of us. So, and he fasts because he's a guy and guys can't fast because of their hormones. But we've got 3 kids, so the omelet's split into 4, and there's always veggies in there, or he'll put leftover lamb or roast or sausage or bacon in there as well, and there's fats in there. And so we might put a bit of sauerkraut on the side for some probiotics and some avocado in there. And we used to eat oats. I in his my husband's got type 1 diabetes, so that essentially means that he doesn't produce his own insulin, which is the hormone that's going to transport glycogen to the muscles and the liver to be utilized. Does that make sense? Yeah. So his mum also, like, his family history has type 1 diabetes, autoimmune conditions in there. So I'm mindful of that for our kids as well, and I'm all about reducing risk. When he was 26 years of age, I think it was, he had a cardiac arrest as well. So we were asleep and he had a cardiac arrest, and he was in a coma for a week. And then, it was a highly traumatic time in our life. I was like 22 years of age, and it was horribly traumatic. So from that just kind of has hounded in me that if my food, and I know food is medicine, food can reduce risk of disease. It's not going to assure you that it will, but it will reduce risk. And therefore, I will do whatever I can, majority of the time, right? Like, we still eat ice cream and whatever.
We're human,
Yeah, we're human here. But, I will do what I can to reduce that risk of my kids having an autoimmune condition. And I'll reduce the risk of them having a cardiac arrest at the best of my ability. And that's birthed from trauma, and I understand that. But I educated myself enough to take to be empowered to know that what I'm doing today is going to help us in 30, 40, 50 years time. And that's really important for me.
Yeah.
So coming back to the oats situation, that's not helpful for our family history and for our DNA and our epigenetics, etc.
Yeah. Eggs are a big hit in my family, but it's just about being more proactive at breakfast time, maybe. But
yeah, and I mean,
look, I don't have porridge every day. Like on weekends, we will spend more time, but it's often during the week. When you got to get to school, daycare, drop off, work, all the things.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, there's no judgment. It's about doing, like, honestly, where we're at today is all about like it's phases, right? Like, we phased into it. We didn't just one day go, right, let's jump straight in. We had oats 4 times a week, and then we might have had something else a different day. And so it's kind of just phased into what we do now, and I'm sure it'll phase into something else. And variety is queen. Like, variety is super, super important, and everybody's DNA and genetics are different, and that's why we treat that way here, because I understand that you're a unique person and that your lifestyle is unique, and it's not about you living my dietary life. It's about figuring out what your way of eating that you thrive on is. Yeah.
And I liked how you said it's like you can phase into it, so it's not like you just have to go cold turkey. Almost, it can be a gradual change, so it is sustainable, so that you don't feel so overwhelmed.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, chatting about kids, because I'd love to ask this question to finish up today, but it can be so easy as mums or just as parents in general to kind of slip into buying packaged food, particularly when it comes to our kids' lunches, whether they're at daycare, at school, or whatever. And I've seen on your Instagram stories before sharing like photos of your kids' lunches. There's no packaged food in there. It's all whole foods. And I guess for mums who feel overwhelmed with lunch boxes and packing lunches and thinking what to put in their kids' lunches, how can we simplify it? And I guess what are some of the key things we should or could be adding into our kids' lunch boxes to support their own health and their gut health and all the things, well-being?
I love that question. So it is super important that our kids' brains are like clear and energetic to learn. Yeah. And so thinking about like, if I talk about, it's like a food-like product. So packaged foods often contain food-like products. They're not food. They look like food, but they're not actually food, right? So let's just take raspberry jelly. I don't know why I thought of that. Raspberry jelly looks like gelatin and something, but it's not actually. Like, it's got heaps of colors and numbers and stuff. And your body, that's a man-made product. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your body's not going to know what to do with it because it didn't come from the earth. So we eat, like this morning, my daughter packed her own lunchbox. She's 7, and she put in it, well, I make a protein jelly. There's like a protein jelly from ATP Science. So it's protein rich, free of colors and flavors and all that stuff. And I found her just like hoeing into it, like as she was attempting to put it into a lunchbox. She loves it. So you can have things that are like, that look like, that are jelly, but are more healthful, right? So you can make gelatin gummies. And often these things, like I was saying with the CCC balls or the slice, it takes 5 minutes. So, I own a business. I'm a mum of 3 kids. We're also very, very busy, but it's a high value to me and I prioritize it most of the time. If we were to do a packaged item in there, it'd be like a banjo bear. You know banjo bears? They're like carob.
Yeah, the carob chocolate. Yeah.
Not a lot of people love them, but my kids love them. So we'll put a banjo bear in there. But making it really, really simple, key things that you want to focus on are protein. Yeah, like protein. Protein is what gives your body its function and structure. So everything that you see, like your skin, your hair, your nails, your bones, and then everything that function, your muscles, obviously, but everything that it functions. So your hormones, your neurotransmitters, your mood, your behavior, your energy production, all of that requires amino acids, which come from protein. So protein's really important. And what we do in the lunch boxes is like, it's common for them to have chicken and veggie sticks, or I often will put jerky in there. They love jerky. Or we might do a boiled eggs. We do spag bowl, right? We also do like leftover roasts. Every now and then they'll have like a rice cracker with butter, peanut butter, and honey. We are fortunate we're not a nut-free school. So I do acknowledge that that's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot easier for us. If you are a nut-free school, look at seed butters like sesame seed, or like tahini, and things like that. We also do like a nut-based cookie, or we do the slice I mentioned, homemade crackers, fruit. You can put cheese in there. We often do we get a really good cabana from our butcher. I'll put cabana in there sometimes. They love that. What else? Yeah. Sultanas.
Yeah.
Just lots of, and if I give them rice cakes or a sandwich, I'll put a heap of butter on, like organic grass-fed butter, like lathered, because the fat slows the release of the carbohydrate into the body. So it's not gonna ping them up that roller coaster that I mentioned.
And do you recommend any type of bread?
Yeah, so we if you're gonna go for gluten, do a good quality 48-hour sourdough. So not sourdough from the supermarket that's like home bread. That's not sourdough, right? Like a traditional sourdough from an artisan baker. Or a gluten-free bread that's free of seed oils is really important, because the seed oils are, not great for us either. I would also say your lunch boxes, we when I was pregnant and very sleep deprived, we did get into the habit of just having a sandwich every day. And if you go on my Instagram now, what you see now, that was not, again, an overnight thing. We phased it out, or I phased it out. But I lay the law down, right? If you come home and your lunchbox has stuff in it, you're going to eat it before you eat anything else. It's just a non-negotiable in our household that what's in your lunchbox you eat before you get anything else. Yeah. Because I have this concept that I use with clients a lot. It's called adult yourself. And we need to teach our kids how to adult themselves, right? You've got to say no. We can't be saying, oh yeah, no worries all the time. There's got to be boundaries. There's got to be eat your protein, eat your veggies and your nourishing foods first, and then you can have da 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 da. Yeah. So, I do lay the law down every day.
Gotta be firm.
Gotta be firm. Firm with love. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's given me a lot to consider about my own kids' lunch boxes. Some of those things you mentioned I already do, but particularly, it's hard when you've got picky eaters. Not that my kids are super picky, but they do love their sandwiches. So even just looking for a better type of bread, and I love that you mentioned the butter as well. That's something that I need to look into as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure. And I think whether you want to do it, send me a DM with what you do, what you do have in your lunch boxes. And my favorite game is to play, I used to call it fridge roulette, but where you send me an option and then I find a better one for you. I love that game. I just think it's because I think I forget that I think very, very differently to people, right? But the only way for you to make those slow, sustainable changes is for someone to give you an option.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not, we can't just take it out of the lunch boxes. We've got to swap it for something. So if you were to take chips, for example, I would crisps. Yeah. I would say, okay, well, here are 3 brands that I love that are still chips, but they have better quality ingredients in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So feel free to slide on in there.
Slide on in the DMs.
Slide on in and send me what you have and I can make some suggestions. I would love that.
Amazing. Oh, this has given me so much to think about. Thank you. I've made so many changes over the years, but there's always room for improvement, so to speak. So you've given me
Oh,
so much to think about. So
yeah.
thank you. And no doubt all the listeners have got these light bulb moments going off and different things that they're wanting to try. So I'm going to pop your Instagram and your website with a link to that slice on the show notes for everyone. Is there any final thoughts or words of wisdom you want to share before we finish up today?
Oh, that's a tough one. Oh, I just reckon like if you commit to protein-centric breakfasts for 2 weeks, 2 weeks of protein-focused breakfasts, let me know how you feel after that. I just like protein is queen when it comes to your health, not only now, but for when you're older. So that would be the take-home message. Protein, protein, protein.
Challenge accepted.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here, Jenna. I really appreciate your time, and I'm sure everyone got so much out of it. And I'll speak to you soon. And everyone, I will see you on next week's episode. Thanks for being here.
Bye.